Multiplication of rational numbers. In the multiplication of fractions, the denominators are not supposed to be same. Multiplication is easy, the denominators and the numerators are multiplied with each other. If 3 upon 5 is multiplied by 2 upon 3, we simply multiply the numerators, that is 3 times 2, and the denominators, 5 multiplied by 3. This gives us 6 upon 15. However, in the end we need to simplify the answer, as both 6 and 15 are divisible by 3. Thus the answer is 3 upon 5. Another thing we need to know is that sometimes instead of the multiplication sign, the word of is used. For example, 3 upon 5 of 4 upon 7, which means multiplication, 3 upon 5 multiplied by 4 upon 7. We can learn this from a real-life example. Suppose we have 12 cans of orange juice, and you want to drink 2 upon 3, or 2/3 of these cans. So our question becomes 2 upon 3 of 12, which is same as 2 upon 3 multiplied by 12. 12 is a whole number, if written as a fraction. It is basically 12 upon 1, so our question becomes 2 upon 3, multiplied by 12 upon 1, so we just multiply the denominators with the numerators. 2 times 12, upon 3 times 1 comes out to be 24 upon 3. As always, we need to simplify the answer. 24 and 3 both are divisible by 3. This comes out to be 8 upon 1, and any fraction upon 1 is simply the whole number, and we end up with 8. So, from the 12 cans, you can drink 8 cans. One last thing we need to learn before we finish multiplication of fractions. Simplification of fractions can be done, even before we multiply. Let's look at a question. 7 upon 22, multiplied by 11 upon 28. Now if we solve it the way we learnt, 7 multiplied by 11, upon 22 multiplied by 28, you can see these numbers are big, and multiplying them can be a bit frustrating, if not difficult. There is an easy trick. Before multiplying we can simplify the fraction. But remember, the simplification is done between the numerator and the denominator, so here we can see 7 and 28 can be simplified as both are divisible by 7 and 11 and 28 are divisible by 11. Now if you look at the question, what we have left is 1 upon 2, multiplied by 1 upon 4, which is simply 1 upon 8. Now you know how to simplify before even multiplying, but what we need to remember is, simplification is done between denominators and numerators, not between numerators and numerators or denominators and denominators. Now a quick summary. In multiplication we just multiply the numerator with the numerator and denominator with the denominator. We need to simplify the answer if possible. The word of is sometimes used instead of multiplication. We can also simplify before multiplying.
You've probably noticed that we've been talking an awful lot about fractions around here lately. Well, now I'm going to tell you something you can do with fractions that's really easy. No, not juggling fractions. Although that is pretty easy for me. I'm talking about something even easier than that. I'm talking about multiplying fractions. Multiplying fractions is super easy. In fact, it's easier than adding fractions, and that's why we're going to learn it first. The reason it's easier is because fractions are really just division problems, and multiplication and division get along much better than addition and division. Now, since fractions are division, That means if I have the problem 1/4 times 2/3, it's the same as the problem 1 divided by 4 times 2 divided by 3. That means I have both multiplication and division in the same problem. And because they get along so well, that means I can just rearrange our problem to look like this. Now it looks like two multiplication problems that are being divided, and it looks just like a fraction. In fact, if we go ahead and do the multiplications, 1 times 2 equals 2, and 4 times 3 equals 12, then we do have a fraction, and it's the answer to our problem. So what does all this mean? Well, it means that to multiply fractions, all you have to do is multiply the top numbers, and then multiply the bottom numbers, and ta-da! There's your answer. As always, let's see an example or two. Let's try this problem, 2/3 times 4/5. Now we could rewrite the problem like we just saw, but that's not necessary as long as we remember the procedure. First, we know our answer is going to be a fraction, so let's go ahead and write a new fraction line for it. Next, we multiply the top numbers. 2 times 4 equals 8, so 8's the top number of our answer. And last, we multiply the bottom numbers. 3 times 5 equals 15, so 15 is the bottom number of our answer. There we have it. 2 over 3 times 4 over 5 equals 8 over 15. See how easy that was? And fun too. Even funner than video games. Okay, time for another example. Let's try 6 over 11 times 7 over 8. From our multiplication table, we know that 6 times 7 equals 42. So 42 is the top number of our answer. And on the bottom, we have 11 times 8, which is 88. So 6 over 11 times 7 over 8 equals 42 over 88. Oh, now some of you might see that this answer could be simplified, but we'll save simplifying fractions for another video. All right, let's see one last example. Here it is. 1/2 times 4 over 3 times 3 over 5. Wait a minute. This has 3 fractions multiplied together, and the middle one looks like an improper fraction because its top number is bigger than its bottom number. Does our procedure work for this problem too? Yep. All we have to do is multiply all the top numbers together, and then multiply all the bottom numbers together, and we'll have our answer. And this will work no matter how many fractions we have to multiply. So on the top, we have 1 times 4 is 4, and 4 times 3 is 12. And on the bottom, 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 5 is 30. That means our answer is 12 over 30. So there you have it. Multiplying fractions is easy because fractions are just another way of writing division problems. But remember, there's another way to think about fractions. We can also use fractions to represent parts of things, like half a pizza, for instance. But does it make sense to multiply half a pizza by another half? Actually, it does. If you're thinking of fractions as parts of something, then multiplying fractions is really like taking part of another part. For example, here's half a pizza. Now you can see that if I take 1/2 of that half, then I get 1/4 of a pizza. And if we do the multiplication 1/2 times 1/2, you see that we do get 1/4. So that's why you can think of multiplying fractions as taking part of another part. In fact, sometimes, especially in word or story problems, you'll see multiplying fractions written using the word of instead of times. They may ask, what's 3/4 of 2/3? And now you know they just mean, what's 3/4 times 2/3? So, whether you think of fractions as parts of something or as division problems, the procedure for doing the multiplication is exactly the same. Let's do a quick review of what we've learned. Multiplying fractions is even easier than adding fractions. It's easy because order of operations says that we can do the multiplication before the division. The procedure for multiplying fractions is to multiply the top numbers to get the answer's top, and multiply the bottom numbers to get the answer's bottom number. If you think of fractions as parts of something, then multiplying a fraction by another fraction is the same as taking a part of a part. And sometimes, especially in word problems, you might see the word of instead of the word time. Even though multiplying fractions is so easy, it's a good idea to practice. So be sure to do the exercises, and I'll see you next time. Learn more at MathAntics.com.